Hey, today we're going to go over building in Starfield. Specifically, the outpost system and how you can, place down a bunch of different objects to build bases, essentially. But before we get into that, I kind of want to establish a context for, what was building like in previous Bethesda games? I guess I'm not going to go back all the way. We'll just start with Fallout 3. I don't have much experience with Oblivion. A little familiar with Morrowind, a little bit of Daggerfall, but not so much with the player housing. Because there wasn't building in, pre Skyrim. There wasn't really player building. It was more so just player houses. And with the house in Megaton, you could go to Moira Brown and buy decorations for your house. Now, you wouldn't be placing them yourself. You'd just go to her and say hey, I'd like to buy a chem station for 1,500 caps. And she'd be like, okay, go in your house, and there it is. It's just sitting there. You don't get to pick where it is. It's just there. And there's a couple different things you could get that are like that. You could get I think you could get a Nuka-Cola machine. You could decorate the rooms, you could buy a bedroom decoration, and it would furnish your bedroom. So it's not like you're going to Moira and say I'd like a chair. And then she gives you a chair, and then you get to decide where you place it in your house. That's not what it was like in these games. In New Vegas, that was more of an Obsidian thing, but I'm pretty sure the Lucky 38 was kind of like that too, where you could... I don't even remember what it was like exactly, but you could buy something, you could buy a furnished room or some set of furnishings for a room in the Lucky 38, and it would decorate that room, but you don't get to choose how those decorations are placed. And in Skyrim, the game after Fallout 3 in New Vegas, player houses were kind of the same. You're given a player house in in some major city, and you could go to someone and say, hey, I'd like a bedroom, I'd like a kitchen, an attic. And when you buy that for 600 gold, you just get a furnished attic, a furnished bedroom. So it was the same in Fallout 3 in New Vegas. But with the Hearthfire DLC, you're given a house. And this is where we start to see okay, they want the player to build the thing themselves. So it's not like you're going to a person and say hey, give me a furnished bedroom. You're getting the materials yourself. You're going to get wood. You're going to get stone. And you're getting a bunch of iron and silver and just random crafting materials, and going to an interface and saying okay, I want a chair, I want a table, I want a mounted elk head. But much like the previous games, when you craft that chair or that elk head, you're not placing it yourself. When you click craft on chair, a certain chair is placed in the world, or a certain set of chairs. So it kind of gave you freedom in the sense that you could decide what to focus on first. Maybe you want some chairs and a table, but you don't really want all those elk heads. You're not going to go out and kill those random things. Where are you going to find those? I don't know. That's just little stuff on the wall that doesn't matter. What I need is chests and dressers and enchanting table. So you go out and get those materials, you craft exactly what you need, and you don't need to do all the crazy stuff if you don't want to. It's not like a Minecraft type game where you're truly building a house from the ground up. Every piece of foundation you place. But it's kind of a shift in that direction from what existed in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, and I don't know if that stuff was in Oblivion or not, or Morrowind, whatever. Skyrim gave you a little bit more freedom in terms of building a house. In Fallout 4, I was genuinely surprised when they showed off the building system in Fallout 4. Gosh, I dabbled in building my own house in Fallout 3's, the modding stuff, the modding tools. I opened the creation kit or whatever it was, and I was like, okay, I like the Megaton house, but I'm gonna make my own. I want to make it my own. I want to place chests where I feel like they would go, what's useful to me. And I want to put a bookshelf here, and a crafting station here. I wanted to make my house my own, rather than just something that was pre-designed by a level designer and then, saying, okay, I want this table and crafting station that, was already designed, I want it to magically appear in my room. But in Fallout 4, you are truly doing all of that yourself. In Sanctuary, there are houses. And you can go in those houses and, if you want to put a bed in the bedroom, put a door in where the front door goes, put stuff in the kitchen, you can do that. But if you want to build your own structures, you can do that. You are given like planks of wood. You are given like, here's a floor, here's a wall, here's a ceiling. These are all individual pieces. So you could place down floors all across Sanctuary if you wanted to, but you wouldn't have to place walls. Maybe you just want wooded floors all throughout Sanctuary for whatever reason. You can do that. Or if you want to put down some flooring here and then you put up some walls on some of it, but then there's a bit of an overhang, you can really craft it to what you want. It's so freeform, and I genuinely wasn't expecting that from a Bethesda game. This like foray into Minecraft style building where you're given the tools to just go out and do whatever you want. And with that, when I heard building was coming to Starfield, I was really excited. I really did like Fallout 4's building systems, but I had a few problems that I was hoping would be addressed in Starfield. I guess the first thing I was looking forward to was better aesthetics. Now don't get me wrong, Fallout 4's building was great, but just the aesthetics of the buildings you could make felt very worn down. Now I guess, that's the vibes of a Fallout game, is like worn down shacks and just weathered buildings. But if I want a house, I want something that's sleek, I want something that feels welcoming. And you could get some cleaner structures like I think I used concrete walls and some carpeting in one of my bases in my most recent playthrough, but it still felt worn down. It didn't feel welcoming. And I was excited to have Fallout 4's building system with more sleek structures. Especially in a game like Starfield that's like, far future where everything's super polished, super sleek and clean. I wanted to see what type of stuff you could make with Fallout 4's building system in that environment. And past just the core system of building in Fallout 4, Fallout 4's DLC added a lot of weird stuff. So the first DLC, it had a little quest line where you're saving robots or something, I don't remember exactly, but you could get this crafting station in your settlements where you could create and customize robot companions. And just saying that's the coolest thing, because one of Fallout's like main aesthetic tropes is like these weird robots like Robo-Brains, Mr. Handies. But you could customize all these, traditional Fallout robot archetypes to make something that's truly unique. And it was just cool to experiment with that. You could give them certain types of guns and all these different types of like locomotion, how they traverse through the world. Like, do they walk? Do they have tank treads? Do they float? It was so cool mixing all those together to make like a truly weird robot. One of the other DLCs added trapping, like creature trapping. I guess human trapping too. And like fighting. It's like arenas. I didn't mess around with that, but it was a cool thing to add, I guess. I guess I don't know if I would have rather than put that somewhere else, because that's something I'm never going to mess with in that game. But I don't know, it's a weird thing, it's a curveball. Maybe some people really like that. I think I saw it's really good for like XP grinding. So, more power to those people. It's not something I'd mess with, but I guess it's, more options for the game. And then there was this whole DLC about like manufacturing, like in Factorio or Satisfactory. That was bizarre, where you like have conveyor belts and processors and crafting stations where items are put in, something is crafted and then it's shifted off into a chest. That was bizarre. That's another thing where I was like, this is in a Fallout game? That's something I never messed around with, and I don't know if I ever will. But like the trapping mechanics, like it's cool that it's there. Like I was watching some YouTube videos about it, just to see what it was like. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like really in depth. It's bizarre that they added that whole like layer to settlement building in that game. And the last DLC that added some interesting building stuff was you could build your own vault. I didn't mess around with this either. I did the quest line, but I never built my own vault. I know it added some different, like, mechanical things to settlements, but I guess I did ask for some cleaner structures, and vaults probably fit that. You know, I could maybe make a vault and I would feel happy with the aesthetic. So if I ever get back into the game, maybe I'll dive into that more, but I didn't mess with it enough. I wasn't hooked to try it out more. But with all the DLC in Fallout 4, it showed that they were really experimenting with the settlement system and like just the building. Like they had all these crazy ideas that they were throwing at the wall and just to see what sticks. And I just wanted some more of that weirdness in Starfield. You know, throw a curveball at us. Add some weird stuff that makes us say, huh, I never would have expected this in a Bethesda game, but it just fits. And I wanted to see more of that in Starfield. Settlement management? I don't even know what I was hoping in regards to that for Starfield. Because settlement building in Fallout 4 was kind of annoying. Settlers had all these needs and you just had to manage so much. And I wasn't sure if I wanted them to double down on it into Starfield or not. Because on one hand, you know, adding more depth to a system like this, it could ground you to the world better. Like having settlers become a bit more self-sufficient would be neat. They could upgrade their own stuff. You know, it would just feel more alive. You know, allow these settlements to establish themselves outside of the player's direct orders. You know, because that was the thing in Fallout 4 where you really had to micromanage these settlements. Where you had to set people like, okay, you're on the turrets, you're on crops, you're on this crafting station, you're at this shop. You really had to micromanage stuff. And it would be cool to have them be self-sufficient. You know, have them just kind of come into their own outside of the player's wants and desires. You know, maybe give the player some input on how to direct these settlements, but at the end of the day, have it be like an AI-controlled thing where they build out themselves. That's just an idea they could have gone with. Or they could have just simplified it down so it's not so annoying. Because Fallout 4 was already annoying in terms of you need to manage water, food, defense, and like population. You need to make sure you have enough beds. There was just so much to manage in that game. It didn't feel worth it to build settlements out. The most I would do when it came to settlements in that game was just put down beds, put down food and water to match the number of beds, and then never return. Unless they got attacked and they were asked me like, hey, we need your help now. Fast travel there, they'd say thanks, I'd leave. So I was thinking maybe pre-release, you know, Starfield could do better to just do away with a lot of that extraneous nonsense. You know, don't worry about food and water. People just exist and they kind of do their own thing. So I wasn't sure where I stood going into Starfield, but I don't know, I was just curious to see what they would do. So those were all my hopes for Starfield's building. What is it actually like in the game? What did we get? So number one, I like the aesthetics. We definitely got that like super sleek, futuristic building style I was talking about that I was hoping for. You know, you walk into your base and it feels like home. It doesn't feel like this building that's about to fall down at any moment. There's a few different structures to kind of swap between to fit the style you want. And some of the weird stuff from Fallout 4 does come back. Like creature trapping. I was scrolling through the building options and I saw like a creature trap and I'm like, oh, they brought that back? That's kind of weird. I don't really know what the purpose of that was in Fallout 4. And I still don't know what the purpose of that is in Starfield, because I haven't messed around with it. Maybe they probably give you some materials or something. I don't know. I probably won't mess around with it, but it's cool that it's there. And manufacturing, they brought that back. It's hard to say if they went more in depth, because I didn't mess around with it too much in Fallout. But I know in Fallout 4, manufacturing started with the, you put just a bunch of items into a chest, And then from there, it's kind of siphoned off into different, the processing stations, whatever you'd call it. In Starfield, it starts out with you mining something from the ground. So you'll mine iron or whatever, and then you can link that to a chest. And then I guess I don't know what you can do past that, but I guess at its core, that manufacturing is still there. You can mine stuff, and you can automate it. You don't have to go around to planets looking for iron. Just set up an outpost on a planet with iron and mine it. I guess that leaves the question of, to what end? Like, you can do it, but what's the point? You can mine iron and you can get a good amount of it, but how much do you need? Like, is there an item sink for iron? Is it just for making money? I guess I haven't seen some of the late research projects. Like, do those get expensive? Like, am I going to need 100 iron for one research project? I don't know. Maybe I should be mining stuff now, having those set up, but I don't, and maybe I will. Maybe I will sometime soon, I don't know. So yeah, I have yet to dive into the manufacturing stuff, but it's cool that it's there. This is something I'm really disappointed with in Starfield. There are such few structural options for building. Now, to remind you of the system in Fallout 4, you're given floors, walls, and ceilings, and you can combine those in any way that fits you. Like, the only obvious requirement in Fallout 4 I can think of is that you need a wall to put a ceiling on. Like, you can't just have a free-floating ceiling. It doesn't make sense physics-wise. But you can just have walls dotted around and floors all over the place, and they don't have to be connected to each other. And you can build whatever you want out of that. These walls are basically just like a rectangle, and you can build whatever you want with those rectangles and connect them in whichever way you want. And in Starfield, it's not that. All you're given for bases are just structural blocks. Now, Fallout 4 did kind of have this, in that you could get like a floor and a ceiling, like prefab, and place them around so you weren't placing the wall, ceiling, and floor yourself. It was just like there's this chunk of a building, and you can connect them. That's kind of what it's like in this game, but it's even more broken down than that. It's just like, here's a square room, and you place the square room down, and you can connect these square rooms together. Now, it's not just square rooms. There is I think there's 2 rooms that are circles, but either way, it's just these prefab parts in Starfield. You don't have the freeform ability to place down walls and floors wherever you want. You're stuck to okay, this is a square room, and how I connect these square rooms I can do however I want, but that's as far as I can go. And of course, there's a bunch of different little random decorations. It's cool that there's research projects where it's okay, get more decorations for your bases. And you do that and it'll give you 12 different types of chairs, 12 different rugs, 7 tables. There's a lot of stuff like that to fill out these rooms. But the rooms themselves, you're stuck with these square rooms. And that really sucks. That's a huge letdown from Fallout 4. It's very limiting in the types of outposts you can build. You can't make outdoor structures. In Fallout 4, you could make a deck for your house. Just have the floors come out of the house a little bit. And, put some chairs out there, put some stairs going up. There's none of that in Starfield. There aren't stairs. I think the only way to build a second floor in Starfield is one prefab of one style of room. If you want to use the science room, I don't think the science room has a prefab that has stairs going up. I think it's only the it's the military room or something that has stairs in the middle of it. And that's just crazy. It's crazy that they had such a good system in Fallout 4 for building, and they went back on that. I guess in regards to the types of buildings you can make, the only way to enter one of those prefab square rooms is through an airlock. You can't just have an open door, open into space. Which, I guess makes practical sense on a planet. Like if you're in some super hostile environment, you want to have this airlock, this separation between the hostile environment and this, clean interior where you're safe from the harshness of the outside world. But it's super annoying to, you fast travel to your base from somewhere else and you want to put all your loot away. You get there and you have to interact with the airlock. And it has a little sequence where it's like, okay, the door's shut, you press interact, and it says opening, and then it opens. Now, admittedly, that's not a long delay, but it's annoying to have to do that every time. Every time you come here, you have to wait for that door to open, and it's opened. Yes, it's so annoying. That's honestly my biggest gripe with Starfield's building, is that I don't know why they made it so more restrictive. I guess settlements was like really a core part of Fallout 4, so they wanted to make it as freeform as possible. And you can build outposts in Starfield, but it doesn't push you nearly as much to, dive into that system. Where in Fallout 4, you're doing that like as soon as you're out of the vault. And I guess to kind of elaborate on the outpost and settlement system in Starfield, it's not as in-depth as it was in Fallout 4. Like, you can assign crew members to outposts in this game, but honestly, I don't know why you would. Like, I think you get access to some of their perks if you do that. Like, if one of them has a perk to, like, that lets them build certain types of material, I think if they're assigned to that outpost, you'll get the ability to craft the higher level items. But outside of that, I just don't know. Maybe it's a good thing they didn't go as in-depth as it was in Fallout 4. Like I was talking about earlier, how it was annoying to have to manage, food, water, beds, population. So who knows? I can imagine a version of this game with much more complex outpost system, where you do have to like go get food and plant it and make sure that everyone's got water. But I don't know, maybe this is good for this game. Maybe that's more fitting in a Fallout game where survival is like an everyday conflict. Maybe it fits more to like have to manage water and food for everybody, but in Starfield you don't have to worry about that. Something I was surprised about this game is that you can't build inside ships. That's weird because I was just expecting to. Because they have these ships you're able to walk around in and they're so dense. And like your ship is your ship. I was kind of expecting to be able to decorate, put chests down and make ships my own. And you can make the exterior of them your own, and I guess the types of parts you place in the ship builder kind of forms the internal area of the ship when you're walking around in it later. But it's kind of like the houses in Skyrim and Fallout 3 and all that, where the interiors of the ships are like prefabricated. They are designed by the level designers. You can't change it. I was just expecting to. I don't know, maybe that's on me. You can build inside player homes though. Like all the games pre-Fallout 4, this has more traditional player homes and apartments. And thankfully you can build inside of those. I haven't messed around with any of those myself, but I have looked them up on YouTube, and whenever you walk into one of these apartments or houses, it's just an empty room, and you get to design it yourself. And I think that's really cool. I might mess around with that, me being kind of sour on the building of outposts on planets. Maybe I will build a base in some random apartment in New Atlantis or whatever. Just for that super sleek feeling, and it feels more like home rather than this like super artificial square rooms connected all about. Now, gosh, I hate to do this. I hate to bring this up in a Starfield video, but I have to compare it to No Man's Sky. Because No Man's Sky, honestly, I didn't really think about it a lot, pre-writing my notes for this video. I didn't think about it a lot, but No Man's Sky building is really similar to Fallout 4, in that you're given walls, floors, and ceilings, with those like fundamental building blocks, you can make whatever. And inside those whatevers, you can place decorations, flowers, chairs, just little decorations to make it feel comfy. And that's what I was expecting from Starfield. And it's crazy to me that, the concept existed in Fallout 4, but that was more of in the aesthetic of Fallout 4, where it's the super like grungy, worn down vibes. And in No Man's Sky, it kind of went for that like super sleek, far future design language. So I already had that in my mind. So maybe I just like unfairly projected that onto Starfield and was assuming like, oh yeah, of course it's going to be like that. The biggest thing for No Man's Sky building to me, I guess outside of the, freeform building with the walls and floors and all that, airlocks in No Man's Sky are just like transparent barriers that you walk through. It's not this thing where you have to go in the middle of the airlock, push the button, the door behind you closes, the door in front of you opens, and then you walk through. It's literally just like a barrier that you walk through. There's not even a door, I don't think, on some of them. It's just like a barrier you can walk through. Maybe No Man's Sky is like a farther future than what Starfield is going for, where that they can get away with that design-wise. But man, I would take the hit in terms of like immersion breaking if they went with like that far future design rather than just like a more traditional airlock that's super slow. Because it just makes it feel clunky. It makes me not want to go to my base if I have to wait 2 to 3 seconds every time to go in the base. In regards to shipbuilding, you don't build ships in No Man's Sky. And you can't walk around them either. Because ships are these like the super personal vehicles. It's basically just a cockpit. So building inside your ship wouldn't really make sense for No Man's Sky. But you can build inside of freighters. These are like super big scale like freighters, they're huge. And you can use that entire building system that you can use on the ground. You can use that for your freighters in space. And that's what I was hoping for Starfield. I was hoping to be able to super customize like, okay, I want chests here for this type of item, chests here for armor, and then something on the wall where I can put my med packs in, and put mannequins all over the place so I can show off my armor and weapon stands. But you can't do any of that in Starfield, at least in your ship. I was hoping that I could have my ship be like a portable base I would take all over the galaxy with me. And it does have some of that, like, I'm pretty sure some of the ship parts you get come with workstations. Like I know the Frontier, the first ship you get, comes with a cooking station, so you can make food in it. But you can't add other stations without adding, like, different structures that have, a weapon workbench or a armor crafting bench, whatever. The freeform building of No Man's Sky on the ground is transferred into freighters. And you can't do that in Starfield, which sucks. Honestly, messing around with the building in Starfield, it makes me want to get into No Man's Sky. I want to really dive into that and build my own cool bases and just decorate them, make them feel unique to me. And, they're completely different games and, what they're going for and how they're played. But the building system in that game easily could have worked in Starfield. And honestly, I guess it's just a scope thing. Like, yeah, they could have made it as in-depth as Fallout 4, but that just wasn't part of the scope. They made the choice at whatever point in development, like, okay, we're going to scale it down a bit from Fallout 4. You're not going to be able to place walls and floors everywhere. We'll just give the player some prefabs of like, here's a square room, here's a little dome. They can connect them in the ways they see fit, and that's good enough. But honestly, I don't think, DLC or mods will fix any of my problems with the building here. Because these are really like fundamental. Like, it's annoying to go through an airlock when you want to enter a base. It's annoying that you can't build inside ships. But those aren't really bugs, those are features. Those are design choices they made when they were planning out the game. It'd be weird for them to go back and say, yeah, that was kind of stupid. Let's go back and change that. Like the airlock thing, like, they could maybe go back on that in a future DLC or an update where they add door to the prefab structures, but I don't think they will. I mean, you'll definitely get more items in future updates. You know, I know they have at least one expansion planned. There's probably going to be some building stuff in that. Maybe? I don't actually know. Maybe it'll just be a story thing where there's more planets, and I would hope for some, like, mechanical additions in the expansion they're working on, but I don't know. For the most part, most of my problems with the building are so fundamental that they just won't be changed. So it's mostly just me accepting the game as what it is. And it has its problems, man. I guess at the end of the day, I'm still glad there is what there is. I'm still glad there's not just player houses on certain planets. I'm glad you can go to a random planet out there and just build an outpost. And even if it might look the same compared to all your other outposts out there, I'm glad that the option is there to do that alongside, you know, a player apartment or whatever. So in regards to the future, you know, I'm not holding out hope for them improving the building in this game. I'd like if they did, but I don't think it's happening. What do you think of building in Starfield? Do you think it's good? Do you think I'm just nitpicking? Or do you think it's worse than I've portrayed it? Or do you think they shouldn't have even messed with it? Curious what you guys think. Drop it in the comments. Or drop a suggestion for a future video. Do whatever, I don't care. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.